You can't be working and be the hardest worker in the room, but have self-doubt and lack that belief in yourself. That's why it's not true that just working hard alone will give you success, because we all know people who work hard and they're still not where they want to be.
Welcome back to another episode of the Good Enough Mompreneur podcast. I'm your host, Angela Michuli. Apologies, my voice is failing me today. I have a cold, but it doesn't take away from the importance of this interview with my guest today, Kathi Reuter. She's an amazing coach, a former elementary school teacher turned online entrepreneur, and a mom of 3. And she went from a discouraged entrepreneur to a limitless CEO. And she now helps other entrepreneurs do the same. And some of the really important things that we're going to discuss in this podcast episode are, identifying what that story is that you're telling yourself. One question that you can ask yourself to really identify what limiting belief is holding you back in your current situation. We talk about common limiting beliefs and how to start retelling that story to yourself, how to flip that story, how to go through failures to learn from them. We also talk about overcoming roadblocks and so much more. It's such a great conversation, and I can't wait to share it with you. But first, I want to invite you to please leave a review for the podcast if you're enjoying the content. It's so helpful for other mompreneurs to find the podcast, and it helps me know that I'm creating content that is resonating with you. And then also be sure to follow the podcast and then use that little hamburger icon to share the podcast episode with anybody that you think it may resonate with. So without further ado, here's my interview with the amazing Kathi Reuter. Hi, Kathi. How are you?
Hi, Angela. So good to see you.
It's good to see you. I love your energy. You're always just like bubbly and like ready.
Thanks.
It's
all
like,
the coffee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right. I'm going to give you a quick introduction. I mean, you're a mompreneur. You're a coach, you're a podcast host, and an author. I can't wait to learn a little bit more about that. That's so cool. And you started a home business, a home-based health and fitness business in 2014. So it's been almost a decade.
I know. It's been a long time. I can't believe how fast it flies.
Yeah. So you found yourself in the midst of all of this success, despite many reasons why you shouldn't have been successful. And so now you're on a mission to help others kind of find that same success and overcome their limitations. So
exactly.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kathi, tell us about your journey on how you became an entrepreneur and why you became an entrepreneur, which is so interesting. And so many moms in my audience, I'm sure, can identify with what motivated you.
Oh, yeah. So I actually went to school and got my degree in elementary education. I had my degree in elementary education and a master's degree in special education. And I wanted to be a teacher. So I was a teacher for almost 10 years before having kids. But I knew that once I did have kids, I wanted to be home with them. And so I resigned from my teaching career, when I had my firstborn, he's going to be 11 now next month. It's crazy. I cannot believe how fast time goes.
My daughter is turning 16 in a couple of weeks.
Oh my gosh, 16? Yeah. Oh, I can't even imagine what that's going to be like with the driving license and everything. Oh my God. I'll just keep it right where we are here
Right?
now at the 10, 11-year-old age.
Enjoy 11.
Yeah, I will. Because it only gets more complicated.
Right, exactly.
So I had resigned from my teaching career right as I was about to have him. And I just kind of always saw myself just staying home doing nothing. But what ended up happening really quickly was, even though my husband had a really, really great job and he was actually picking up all these other side businesses like photography and videography, and he built, websites, and I was tutoring most nights of the week, still doing all of that. We just could not afford to be home. And so to kind of make a long story short, then I had my second born child. They're 18 months apart. And by then we were really in deep trouble. And that's when my husband was like, listen, Kathi, I know you want to be home with the kids, but there is just no way around it. We're doing everything we can. You have to go back to work. And I am like super solution oriented. That's just how I am. And when I have a decision in my mind to do something, nothing is going to stop me from doing it. Like I always believe that everything is figure outable. There's always a way around things. If you want it bad enough, you can always find a way to make it work. And that's when kind of this coaching for health and fitness literally just fell into my lap. And I always think, hey, things come into your life at just the right time for a reason. And you can either keep your eyes open to the opportunity and take your chances or not. And I dove right in and just got started on that business. And I was home with my two little kids. When I started, Kirsten was 4 months old and Landon was 22 months old. Mm-hmm. So I was home with them all during the day. And at night, I would build my business. And I had no choice but to make it work. Like you said, I had all these other limitations against me. On paper, I wouldn't have looked like somebody who would have succeeded. I had no background experience in business at all. I didn't even use social media, and I was going to be building my business on social media. It was a health and fitness business, and I wasn't even in good shape. My husband thought that it really wasn't going to even amount to anything, but I had my vision that I was going to be home with these kids. And so I dove right in and, treated it like a business right from the beginning. That's kind of where it started. I
love that story because we have so many limitations, and a common one too is even though people want, moms want to be home with their kids, they use them as a limitation. Like, right. I can't build a business while I'm taking care of the kids and juggling that and all that stuff. So can you talk about, like, it seems like you and I talked before that you didn't have a lot of limitations in the beginning. Like you just went for it, probably because you had your eye on the prize. Like, this is what I have to do. But at some point you hit a limit, right?
Right.
Kind of found yourself hitting a wall. So can you kind of talk about that and how you realized it?
Oh yeah. It's been quite the journey over the past almost 10 years, but yeah. So when I first started with this first business, a long time ago, 9.5 years ago, I had, very fast, success and didn't have those limitations. I was very good at just seeing where I was going with the business, knowing that, my purpose and my why was to be home with the kids. And there was no plan B. I think that helps too. If you go into something with just, this has got to work, there is no plan B. Having that attitude. So I had really quick success and went on to build a 6-figure business in my first 11 months. But then what ended up happening was we started to plateau, and I started to have, people on my team that lost belief in themselves. And, I just started to hit roadblock after roadblock in my business, which I didn't know was actually part of the journey since I was so new to business. I was living in another planet thinking it was going to be skyrocket success to the top. Like that little chart, it shows like the straight line and the squiggle. I was like,
it doesn't happen like that.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not going to be the squiggle. Nothing's stopping me. Look at me go. And so I was just like, this is not going to happen to me. Like, I'm going to be like, the person who doesn't go through that.
Right.
Well, needless to say, we started to hit roadblock after roadblock. And what ended up happening to me was, and this is where I let my limiting belief stop me, which I didn't realize was stopping me at the time. But I interpreted those roadblocks and those failures as me being the failure, as me being not able to really build the business to the level that I wanted to. And so I got stuck at that. And I had these just inner thoughts in my mind, even though I was sitting down and working my business every single night, and I was the consistency queen, and I was listening to personal development all the time. I found myself, as this, what I like to call it, the discouraged entrepreneur with big dreams, I was discouraged, but I was working, but I had still big, huge dreams and visions for, our family and our business. But I found myself just kind of stuck. Like, what is wrong with me? Do I really have what it takes to go the distance here? Because what I'm doing isn't working. And so I had stayed flatlined like that, plateaued for a solid 2 to 2.5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what was the light bulb that went off that kind of helped you move past that?
So what ended up happening was, so I was doing all the things. Like I said, I was working. I wasn't like just sitting on my couch being like, why isn't my income growing? Like, it had totally plateaued. I remember I was in Massachusetts at the time. I live in Florida now, but at the time I was in Massachusetts, and I was walking around a field, and we had 3 children at the time. And I remember listening to this podcast because I was always doing personal development, and I was always listening to podcasts and all of that because I'm so into, keep continuing to get better. And I was listening to this one podcast, and he had a guest speaker on, and his name was Jim Fortin, Fortin. I don't know if you've heard of him. And he's really incredible. But he said this one phrase in the podcast, and it was like an instant light bulb moment for me. He said, "You are the thinker of your thoughts." And when he said that, instantly, I remember I stopped in the middle of my walk, and I looked at my husband, and I'm like, oh my God, I have literally been telling myself this total BS story of lies that isn't even true for 2 to 2.5 years now. I have been believing these thoughts, that I've been putting these thoughts in my mind and these beliefs, and I can change them. Like, I have the power to change them. And so that's what triggered it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is, and usually that's kind of the moment that takes somebody into like starting their business. Like, for me, I was just like, this cannot be all there is. There's no way. I've gone to all this schooling and done all these things, and I'm waiting for opportunity that is not coming,
It's true.
And it's like, and so I started down that path of realizing, so that is just fascinating. But I want to help other people kind of like, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
So what are the ways that people can really stop and begin to identify those beliefs that are holding them back? Like,
yeah. So I have like a 3-step process that I really do like a deep dive in, like in my program that I have. We start with like being able to identify what your limiting beliefs are. Then we move on to being able to silence and flip them into more, empowering beliefs. And then we learn how to ingrain them. But basically, on the surface level, you can start by asking yourself just like the simple question of, what was your biggest goal, or what is your biggest goal that you have in your business? And knowing what that is. And then when somebody asks you, or if I were to ask you, why do you feel you didn't hit that goal or reach that goal by the end of 2022, for example? Like, why didn't that happen? If you start to say things, usually it's that first line that you come up with is usually the limiting belief, right? It's either, maybe you might say like, you're chalking it up to external circumstances. Right. Like, oh, this happened, or
I didn't post enough on Instagram, or
right, I didn't post enough on Instagram, or exactly little things like that, or I wasn't able to work on my business for as long as I wanted to, or I had another baby, so I couldn't do it. Like, for every thought that you have like that, no matter what you're going through, there's somebody else out there that has it the exact same way, if not harder, and they're crushing it, right? Because you can do both. You can have both a successful business and be a stay-at-home mom, or whatever it is that, that you're doing. And so just really just starting to be able to identify what is that thought that you have on repeat, because it's on repeat constantly, usually in your mind. You hear it over and over again. Like, for me, it was that thought over and over again of, well, you're a failure, obviously, because you just hit this roadblock in your business. That means you're a failure. So once you identify exactly what it is that you feel is kind of holding you back, like, you maybe have had some success in your business, but now you were that discouraged entrepreneur with these big dreams and you want to move to that limitless CEO direction, right? Like you want to be that person that you look up to and it seems like they're crushing it, right? And their income is growing and they're not having any of these flat lines, right? So just identifying what it is at first, that what you have, being aware of it is like number one, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So what are some of the common ones that people have that you think?
Yeah. So the most common ones are that most online entrepreneurs that I work with, they chalk it up to, I don't have enough time. I don't have a supportive spouse. You know what I mean? Like I can't do two things at one time. I'm too busy right now. I don't have enough help at the house. I don't have enough support. Who am I to really have such big dreams and goals? Right.
Yeah.
And even just doing things like playing the comparison game, you sit down to work. Yeah. Like you sit down to work your business every night and you know what you're supposed to be doing, but then you find yourself just scrolling TikTok or Instagram and you're looking at everybody else and you're not doing what you know you need to be doing.
Right.
Those are all examples too.
Right.
The comparison game. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're consuming more content than you're creating,
I know.
Then
exactly.
And I heard that once and I was like, whoa, dang, that's totally true. It's like at some point you have to take some action and
it's true. And it doesn't really even matter. Like, even if you are someone who, is having that fast success at the beginning of the business, like I had, eventually something is going to happen.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to recognize it and basically reprogram, I had to reprogram the way that I was thinking. I had to reprogram the way that I looked at my past failures and understand that, hey, this is all part of the process.
Right.
It's actually way more important than the successes. You have to go through the failures instead of trying to avoid them. You have to go through them and really understand that they're there to teach you a lesson, and you will remain kind of like stuck till you've learned the lesson that you needed to learn so you can grow to the level that you want to grow to.
Right.
So yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow when you think that you're not supposed to fail.
Right. Yeah. And so what were the things that allowed your new mindset and the new way that you looked at your thoughts? What did that allow you to start doing that turned things around?
Well, see, so when I was going through this whole phase where I was feeling, the discouraged entrepreneur, right? Big dreams, I lacked that excitement and I lacked the fun and I lacked that feeling of fulfillment and joy and the energy that all of that I used to have. I was like so excited, where I felt like, oh my gosh, this is the thing that I'm meant to do. That mantra that you hear, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Like I truly believed that then when I was succeeding. And then as soon as I, plateaued and I hit that roadblock, I was like, that's a bunch of BS, right? I started to like not believe that mantra. That's how I kind of started to change. So once I figured out what was, holding me back, which was literally my thoughts, because at the end of the day, it really is, your thoughts that create your results ultimately in life.
Right. Yeah. And that's what, I was going to ask you about is I thought it would be great for us to talk about. I don't think people understand the power that we can have over our thoughts. And then two, how important they are in forming our beliefs. And why are our beliefs so important?
I mean, it's the root of everything. See, most people in like the online industry, especially with my first business that I had started 9 years ago, were taught to just work more, work harder, work longer, 10x what you're doing, hustle, 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 hustle. Yeah. Keep going until you get the result that you want to get and you're earning the income that you want to earn, right? Just don't quit type of thing.
Yeah.
Which is fine if you have the mindset piece component squared away first. You can't be working and be the hardest worker in the room, but have self-doubt and lack that belief in yourself. That's why it's not true that just working hard alone will give you success, because we all know people who work hard, right? And they're still not where they want to be, right?
Right.
And so, you have to, it's this whole thing where, this is how I kind of break it down. The thoughts that you think right? They produce feelings, right? So if you
Mhm.
have a good thought, like, I am going to build this 6-figure business this year, like, I believe in myself, then it causes you to feel like excited and energized.
Mhm.
And then your feelings go on to create you to either take action or not action. And so if you're feeling inspired and you're feeling motivated and you're feeling determined and you're feeling like, I got this, like, I believe in me, this is going to work, then you're going to be willing to do the action that you need to take to
Mhm.
grow your business and move in the right direction, which
Mhm.
then will produce the results that you see in your business. And those results that you get just solidify your beliefs, and the cycle keeps
Mhm.
going on, your thoughts and your beliefs. So the problem is that if you have a limiting belief, if you're thinking to yourself,
Mhm.
is success really possible for me?
Mhm.
How does that really make you feel when you sit down to work? You're not
Mhm.
inspired. You don't really want to do it because deep down you're thinking, well, what's really the point? Because I don't really believe in myself. And then you're not really taking the action consistently that you want to take because you're
Mhm.
lacking that belief. And then it produces the results, which is no income growth, right?
Mhm.
Plateaued, income even going backwards, which just solidifies your whole belief system. And
Mhm.
so you've got to work harder on your mind than anything else, because everything stems from your belief system and your thought process.
Right. Okay. So I have two things that I'm thinking about. Number
Okay.
one, so what were the actions that you were not taking that were holding you back?
Well, I see, the thing with me was I was doing all the actions,
Oh, okay.
and because my whole thought process was failure, it was that belief
Mm.
system that was driving my
Mhm.
results. If you're coming at it with uninspired action
Mhm.
and a lack of belief,
Yeah.
everything is energy. You're just not going to
Mhm.
get the results that you want to get. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
so, but I did, as time went by, I mean, I was always working my business, but I did start to do like little things, like where I would stop all of a sudden showing up every single week for the training calls. I
Mhm.
started to get like inconsistent with those kinds of things.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
interesting. So I'm sure it wasn't after just one walk that your mind was totally like, oh, epiphany. I never have to like work on it again.
Oh
So
no.
what so what are the actions or the actions that you continue to take that helps you keep in the mental space that you need to be to keep, you know,
Yeah.
achieving?
Yeah. So now, I mean, it takes practice. I mean, anybody can learn this. This is the good thing about it, is that anybody can learn this. It's really just being able to, identify what it is that's stopping you, and then immediately being able to replace that thought
Mm.
with a more empowering one. That's really the key to it. I actually created a free document. I don't know if you want to put it in here for your listeners,
Yeah,
but
no,
um,
absolutely. That's great.
yeah, if you just go to
Mhm.
kathireuter.com/think this, not that, it's a whole
I
free
love
guide
that.
yeah, it's really, really awesome, because it's just a free
Yeah.
guide of all the most common limiting beliefs that entrepreneurs think and what you can think instead. So it's a more empowering belief that you can replace it with. It's
Love
really,
that.
that is really all it is just a repetition of being able to, okay, this is what I'm saying in my mind. Oh, I don't
Mhm.
know if I really have what it takes to succeed. This is really hard for me. I don't think I can do this. To, okay, wait a minute. That's a limiting
Right.
belief. That's holding me back. How
Yeah.
about, this is new for me? It's going to take some time, but I'm going to be patient. I'm going to learn it. Things
Right.
like that, just learning how to reframe it. And so it was a constant daily practice where I would actually really, like, I would get out my sheets of paper and I would literally write down like what my thought was, how it made me feel,
Mhm.
right? What was the action that I took or didn't take? And then what was the result I got? And then on the other side, I would move it. Okay, well, what can I think instead of that limiting belief that's going to make me
Yeah.
move myself in the right direction? How does that look now? How does that make me feel when I say it this way?
Yeah.
Right. And it was constant repetition. Now, after, being able to have mastered this over the past like
Mm.
6 years, I can do it on the spot.
Right.
And really going through that whole process that I just went through was really what allowed me to have the belief in myself again, to write the children's book. I can do this and so much more, to be able
Mhm.
to launch this podcast, do life big, to be able to create the Mindset Accelerator program so that I could go on and, help other entrepreneurs achieve those goals too in their
I love
business.
that. I love that. And it's free. It's people think it's so complicated.
Hmm.
And I mean, it really isn't, but it takes just doing consistent things like that and realizing that you really can be in control.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you really can be limitless. I mean, if you have this piece mastered,
Mhm.
you are legit unstoppable.
Right.
Anything is possible for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
But people just get really like caught up in like, well, just tell me what to do. What do I need to do?
Right.
And it's like, well, we got to start with the mind first.
Right, exactly. And that's what I could tell people all day. Here's how you could here's how you register your business, an EIN number, and they
Right.
think those are the things that they really need to focus on. And I
Right.
say, well, before that,
Yeah, exactly. Before we move in that direction.
if you
It's
want
true.
this to like really, mean and take, go the distance with this business and fully
Yeah.
develop it, there are some other things that you might not be aware that you need to start with first.
Yeah. It's
Um,
true. It's true.
it is so true. So, one of the things you talked about, which I think is so important, is this concept of work harder, do more to get more results.
Right.
And especially as women and moms, I think that kind of, I think it's like a male energy. Like it's this, this
I know.
bro energy of like, and I don't know how many women I've talked to who kind of take that approach and don't find it, successful for them, just because I
Yeah.
don't think it's authentic for us as women for the most part.
No.
And so, can you talk about that myth and why it doesn't
Yeah.
work for us and how we can move more into like a system that feels more authentic and will actually provide more results for us?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I would hear that too all the time. And I even
Yeah.
know people who would believe that. And the whole thing is that, you can do both things. And what's most
Yeah.
important is you want to be present in whatever you're doing, right? You don't want to go down that trap where you feel like your whole life is like consumed by your business, right? Your business was meant to give you life and it's supposed to give you freedom and give you flexibility. And what
Mm-hmm.
good is that going to do if every time you go to sit down, on the floor and play a game with your kid, you're in your background, in your mind, thinking about your business or,
Right.
what you should be doing in the business, right? So I think
Mm-hmm.
really, really understanding that, I mean, this is how I operate, but time with people is something that you can't get back, right?
Right.
And like you have your whole life to work and to work on your business. Your business is
Mm-hmm.
always going to be there for you. But your
Yeah.
kids and your family, I mean, they're only going to be little for so long
Yeah.
before it's too late. And you can get a lot of things back in life, but you can't get back time. And
Right.
so really just knowing that, you know, you're worthy of the success in your business and you're also worthy of being like an excellent present mom and just releasing yourself from your business when you're doing other things and knowing that it's going to be fine. It's going to work out. Your business is
Yeah.
always going to be there for you. Just
Right.
really putting on those blockers of focusing on being in the present moment and enjoying what's
Yeah.
going on. And, I think that's why too, a lot of times I see online entrepreneurs who can, you can work from your phone now, right? And do all these things, you know,
Yeah.
just get really specific with when you're going to be working your business, like setting business hours and sticking with them, not just doing this flying by the seat of my pants thing 24/7, constantly checking my phone when I'm with this kid or I'm in the,
Yes.
and I know we're all
Yes.
guilty of this. I know, but just,
Yes.
I think we have to keep our mind around the abundancy mindset and knowing that, hey, it's going to work out. When it's time to work my business, I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to work my business then. And it's a day by day step. Nothing happens overnight. And then when I'm with my husband or I'm with my kids or I'm with my parents or whatever you're doing with your loved ones, you're there enjoying that time too. Because honestly, it's the memories with the ones that you love. That's the most important thing. Business will always be there.
Yeah, I so agree with that. And it is so easy to be distracted and to, like you say, do business anywhere and everywhere. But really, boundaries, we talk about
Yeah.
boundaries all the time. And,
Boundaries.
if you have none and you're giving your time away to anything and everything all the time, and you're wondering why you're disgruntled and you're feeling worn out and not going anywhere and stuck, that's probably a primary reason why.
Oh yeah. And that's kind of grounded too, like, in like the scarcity, mindset, or
Oh,
you're worried about your
right.
business going away, that you're going to lose, like the income's going to go away.
Yeah.
It's not going to last. And, that's a whole nother thing about money beliefs and everything. But,
Yeah.
you can do, but you do not need to be working your business
Yeah.
24/7, killing yourself to
Right.
have a super successful business. You can put the boundaries on it, and you can be a kick butt CEO and an
Right.
awesome mom and do all the things.
Thank you. Absolutely, 100%. And, I hear all the time too, like you can't be a great mom and an entrepreneur. And really, the secret to that is boundaries.
It's boundaries, and really sticking with them, being disciplined enough
Yeah,
to stick with those boundaries and stick with those times that
100%.
you work your business.
100%.
Yep.
So how do you navigate that? Do you just create like this amazing schedule or
Well, I feel like it's been a long journey for me because I've always had a little one home with me. So I have a
right?
3.5-year-old at home with me now. And so for me, I mean, my schedule's pretty predictable. I basically
Yeah.
do, thank goodness he still takes naps, and he's napping now. But that's when my block of work time will be
Yep.
when he is napping.
Uh-huh.
And I'll do a little bit of work at night if I need to.
Hmm.
And we used to have a babysitter who would come to the house, and she'd come like 2 times a week, and I'd go to my friend's, business, or her coffee shop that she owned, and I'd work there
Hmm.
for like 2 hours. But now my babysitter vanished off to the mountains somewhere, so I don't have a babysitter anymore. But it's just one of those things where I am constantly reminding myself that, there's different phases in your life too that you're going through. And sometimes there's like busy seasons, and then sometimes there's like easier seasons. And
Yeah.
I just go into every day saying, I'm just going to do what I can do today
Hmm.
and be 100% okay with that.
Right. I heard this really great statement that said, a lot of that creates anxiety. And moms think, oh, I can't do that. I can't handle it. And that anxiety, whenever you have anxiety, it's really you're thinking about the future. You're not
Right.
being in the present.
Yeah.
So, we don't question ourselves moment to moment, I don't think, for the most part, being a parent, and we handle it. We just do it.
Right.
And at some point in your business, it will be very difficult in the beginning, but your mind adapts.
It does.
You figure it out.
Oh God. Yeah. We can figure anything out.
We figured podcasting out.
I know. I know. I mean, think of it. I always say that. I'm always like, think about all the things that you have mastered now that were new to
Right.
you before, and
Right.
you figured it out. And now it's like no big deal.
Right. And I was talking to somebody on the podcast. They thought they were new at podcasting, and I was so surprised by this limiting belief. She was surprised that even at her age, which she was younger than me, she's like, I could learn something new. I was like,
No.
what?
Yes, that is a common one. Like, I'm too old to learn this. Yeah. Yep.
What
Nope.
in the world is this? No way. Oh my gosh.
I know.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised.
Sometimes I hear ones that just like totally throw me off, and I try not to have this crazy reaction, but I'm like, what?
I know. It's like we've all gone through it.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing too about beliefs is that we'll defend them, right?
Oh, yeah.
No matter how much they don't serve us, we are just like, no, this is the way it is. You
Yep.
can't tell me you're just like, selling me the
Oh, it's true. Like,
whatever.
yeah, you're constantly looking for, external circumstances to like validate that belief.
Right.
Like when I was going through that whole period of time there in my business, I found myself, instead of watching all the other people who inspired me, I would purposely seek out like the other people who were also struggling so that I wouldn't feel like, okay, it's just me. I'd be like, oh, see, but she is too. I started to surround myself with people like that instead of the people who would pull me up.
Right.
And so it's very interesting.
And it feels you do constantly have to play tricks with your own mind.
You do.
And it's like, whatever you want to accomplish, seek out the possibility. And I think that that's what this podcast is.
It's true. Seek out the possibilities. And, you can figure anything out. Like you always have what it takes. Just be okay with being a beginner, at something and learning something new for the first time. And just, I think also too, like when you go into business, if I were to go back in time,
right,
just knowing that there's going to be a lot of roadblocks. It's 100% normal. It's there to teach you a lesson so you learn something so you can grow. That's key.
I don't know how many times we've talked on this podcast about what a great therapy that being an entrepreneur is. I mean, you cannot run from any belief as long as you want to grow and continue to prosper. And
Yep. It's so true. And every time you work through one, you always come out stronger, more equipped. You can teach other people now, use that knowledge to teach other people so that maybe it doesn't take them as long to go through it.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, when you've been through enough, you can even like begin to see signs like it's coming.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh no, this is the good part.
Yeah, you're your own little mini therapist,
Right. Yeah, you can totally start to see it happen. But I don't know if you would have any separate advice for somebody who's had past failures and how to overcome that, because you really didn't have like a failure per se, but sometimes maybe somebody started a business that didn't go as they expected and they want to try it again and relaunch or whatnot. Do you have any specific advice to that?
Yeah, I mean, well, any failure that anybody has gone through, I always say, just now that you've gone through it, I mean, look back and there's got to be something there is definitely always something, even if it's super small, something that you learned from that experience that you can take on, and that it's normal to keep failing. If you're trying to launch, a program and it doesn't go exactly the way that you had hoped it to, and you consider that to be like a failure, like I didn't, no one enrolled, I had no sales. Okay. All right. What can we do differently? What did I learn from this, from that launch? What can I do differently the next time to try to improve it? And just be okay trying to go through that slower process of let's step back. Let's make some tweaks here. We'll try it again. We're just going to keep trying again. It's kind of like, when you're a kid and you have a little kid that's learning how to walk for the first time and they're constantly falling. Well, they don't just like fall down and stay down and never learn to walk for their entire life, right? They keep getting up and then they learn to run. It's the same thing, right? Can you imagine if all these babies just laid flat on their face for their whole life?
Right. And really? They really don't even question it. And
it doesn't even bother them.
Right. And you wouldn't say, no, stay down.
Right. Stay down there.
Don't
you belong down there.
Yeah.
Don't bother. Just lay face down on the ground. It's no big deal. No.
Yeah. But we essentially tell ourselves that all the time, right?
It's like, right. That's the thing. It's like we purposely try to avoid the failure. We think it's like not supposed to happen, but it's the same thing. And so if you can just say to yourself, have that no quit attitude. What can I learn from this? Get back up again. I'm going to keep going. All right. What did I learn this time? Now I'm going to make it even better. Make another tweak for the next time. You will eventually get there.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. And so I'm guessing that's probably part of the message that was in your children's book, right?
Yeah. For the children's books that I created, it's an interactive children's book. It's really, really cute. It's called I Can Do This and So Much More.
I love that. Oh
yes, it's actually an interactive book that consists of like 8 different sections of different things that can go in to help children develop a positive mindset at a young age. So it has like different things like with perseverance, and just all different little topics with little short stories. At the end of each short story, there's like a little activity that the kids can do to apply to their own life too. But yeah, it's a great book.
That is so cool.
It's really cute.
So what are you doing now? You're doing coaching? Is that
so now what I do is I created the Mindset Accelerator program, which that's my signature program, where I help discouraged entrepreneurs that have those big dreams move to that limitless CEO and become that limitless CEO. And which is, we go through that 3-step process, a really deep dive into like identifying exactly what your limiting beliefs are, your specific ones are, learning how to flip them on the spot. And then the most important piece after that is really now learning how to ingrain it so they stick and you don't revert back to old ways. And so that's what I do now. I open up the program couple times a year, 3 times a year. So it's not currently open now for enrollment, but in a couple of weeks it'll be open again. And then that's what I do. And I love it. And it's great because all the experience that I've been through, that's what I put into the program. You know, I'm like, I want to be able to help other entrepreneurs really see their true potential, you know?
Right. And I don't think people understand the importance of having a coach and being able to collapse time in an essence. You're saving yourself years potentially.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there is so much to be learned from other people who have walked where you want to go and have been through challenges and know how to overcome them. So I mean, you know, find your person. That's who I always say, you know, find the person you connect with, because, you know, what I love about you is that you're showing up with all of this energy and you show up with all of this enthusiasm. So you found this place where it's not hard and it's not sucking your joy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, no one wants that. I mean, who the heck wants it? You know, you don't want to feel like the hamster on a wheel just going through the motions. Like, what's the point of a business doing that, right?
Right. I mean, it's possible, ladies. It is possible.
It is 100% possible, you know, and you're talking, you know, 10 years of my experience with my psychology degree and all my those roadblocks and working through them put together in this program. So that way people can not be stuck for so long like I was.
Right.
You
know, for anybody on the fence, you know, let's say they're not sure if they want to start a business. Can you talk a little bit about how it has changed your life? I mean, we've talked about how you've evolved mentally, but what freedom has it meant in your life?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, you know, it is so funny because I never saw myself ever becoming an entrepreneur. Ever.
Funny.
Like this. I mean, it was just my husband who went to school and got his MBA. He was the entrepreneur. And so when I got into this, honestly, I didn't know how things were going to change until I quickly started to see the success. And I loved it so much. That's the key to it. But I mean, our life is completely different now than what it was. I mean, it allowed us to be able to pay off all of our debt. We had close to $40,000 of debt when I started originally 9 years ago. Nothing in our savings account. We were living in Massachusetts at the time. So it allowed us to be able to have a growing account, not have any debt. We were able to, you know, move from Massachusetts down to, you know, my dream home down here in Florida, able to get 2 investment properties in the mountains of North Carolina and be able to, you know, get a convertible and just vacation when we want and go on cruises. And, you know, my 2 older kids are going to be both going to private school next year because the school system right where I am isn't that great. And it's very expensive. But just when you work for yourself, you are in control of creating whatever you want to create in anything. Like you can create your future to be whatever you want it to be. You have the full control and the freedom and the flexibility. So there's no amount of money you could ever pay me to go back and work for anybody ever.
Oh,
like never. Never.
No, and it's me neither. And it's just like, or not have this level of control where I have options and I can walk away and be fine because, you know, people think of business as being so risky. And I really think the alternative is riskier.
It really is. And, you know, the alternative is definitely riskier. And one of the things that really was an eye opener to me too was about 4 years ago. This was when I was really, really thankful that I had a business that I could do from home with the flexibility, because my dad had gotten diagnosed with AML, which is acute myeloid leukemia, which he basically only had like 10 days to live if they hadn't caught it. And he had to be put into the hospital in Boston. Now we were living in Florida. And he was living most of the year here with us too, and my mom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he had to go into the hospital up in Boston. He
Mm-hmm.
was going to have to go through all this chemo, a stem cell transplant, like get all new blood to save his life, all this. It was this big process. I was due with my third baby. So I was about 34 weeks pregnant when this happened. And because of being an entrepreneur and having my business I could do from home, we were able to leave our home here in Florida, just like, leave it down
Mm-hmm.
here and go rent a home up in Massachusetts so that I could be with
Mm-hmm.
my dad. And we stayed there for about 10 or 11 months before we came back to our house here. And it
Wow.
was a long process. I delivered the baby up there. I enrolled
Wow.
my other two kids in school, but I was able to see my dad all the time. He was able to meet the baby and he was okay, thank goodness. But if
Wow.
I was just working a regular job, 9 to 5 or whatever for someone else, and that happened,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even been able to be there. I mean, he was fighting for his life every day. We didn't know if he was even going to make it. So I was so fortunate. I mean, it is just the
Yeah.
freedom that having your own business can provide for you, especially an online business. Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs that are
Right.
friends with me right now
Mm-hmm.
where they're not online entrepreneurs.
Oh yeah, I know.
And they're there 24/7. So,
I
that's
know.
not the same.
Yeah.
I was very, very, very fortunate,
Well,
very fortunate.
well, that brings about the whole other conversation, and that's wonderful. I'm glad to hear your dad
Hmm.
was fine.
Yeah,
But I
very
mean,
lucky.
that's a great testament to why it's so important to be able to pivot when life throws you, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
we all had to do it collectively during COVID for the most part, but I was so grateful. I'd been working online for years, and I was
Yeah.
like,
You're like, this is no big deal for me now.
other than my kids always being home.
Oh my gosh, that was something else. That was definitely a tough time. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh no. Oh, having to be a teacher and
Oh,
therapist and
that was unbelievable.
yeah, I mean, we're still recovering for sure.
Oh, we definitely are.
But I mean, just really being purposeful at the outset of your business about creating the lifestyle that you want. Because, I talk to clients who are like, yeah, I want to do this. And I'm like, are you sure you have a 3-year-old?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I just
exactly.
like, have you really thought about this? And do you really think you have the flexibility? And if this is really what you want to do, would you be willing to hire a team to kind of implement your ideas or something like that?
Hmm.
I mean, that's so important to
Really is.
think about, multiple streams of income
Oh
or
yeah.
really just creating, the lifestyle that you really truly want to have when you start your business.
I
So,
know. It's true.
yeah,
Sometimes you don't really think about it when you're at the beginning stages or you're a
right.
lot younger. I mean, I would have never
Oh,
thought like, your
yeah,
parents aren't going to live forever, but I didn't think
right.
that was going to happen. It
Oh my
happened like this. One
gosh.
day he's fine, the next he's not. And just, you know, it's
Crazy.
nice. I don't like to be able to look back and have, like regrets on
Right.
things. So
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to be in a kind of business
Mhm.
that, you can do from anywhere, really.
Right.
I
For
love it.
sure. Well, talk about your podcast. What inspired you to start your podcast and
Yeah.
tell
So
us about it?
it's called Do Life Big, and it's for
Uh-huh.
people who want to do life big.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love
people
it.
who want to go all out in life, and they don't want
Hmm.
to settle. They don't want to live the mediocre life. They know
Right.
deep down that they have, a lot of potential. And I actually started that last summer. See, when I get
Hmm.
these ideas, I'm like, I'm just going to go for it. All of a sudden, I was like, I have so many, online entrepreneurs coming to me all the time,
Hmm.
asking me for tips and advice. And can you
Hmm.
teach me how to do this? And I was like, and
Hmm.
my favorite thing to do are like, I love doing calls. I love doing
Yeah.
calls. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do a podcast.
Right.
That was it.
I love it.
That was my whole thing. I was like, let's just do the podcast thing now. And I love it.
Awesome.
So every Monday morning, I have a quick podcast that drops. They're no more than 20 minutes usually,
Hmm.
because it's primarily for like the busy mom who's
Hmm.
listening either in the shower or on the way to school while they drop off the
Hmm.
kids. And I love it so much.
That's fabulous. I I just love connecting with other moms who just want to, spread that message, show what's possible, and you know live the life that we know that everybody can live. It's just you have to make that decision for what you
Yeah.
really want. It's just
You really do. And like not being so wrapped up in it being perfect,
oh,
knowing that it's going to be such a mess. It's going to be such a crap show.
oh my gosh.
Just embrace it, share it, be real, be authentic, share the mess.
Yeah.
It's, it's all part of it.
It's all a part of just, just keep going. I mean, my first episodes were painful. Like I would sit
Yeah.
for hours. It was just like, what am I doing? And who's going to want to listen to me? And in 2023, I was rated one of the top mompreneur podcasts. And,
That's amazing. Congratulations.
thank you. I mean, I stumbled across it by accident. I was looking up something. It's like,
that is so funny.
what?
You're like, go me, time to celebrate.
Like,
you go, girl.
Is this a joke?
Hey, is somebody putting a prank on me? That's so funny.
Yeah. And I mean, and then I figured out just like how it happened. But I just did this very vulnerable episode on mental health as an entrepreneur. And people just were like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, she was real. It was just real and raw and authentic. And that's what people want though. Everything is so fake, these days. You go online, nothing's real. So when you hear someone actually speaking, their heart, they can connect with that.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about growth through being an entrepreneur, and I had no idea I had complex CPTSD or PTSD. I had no idea. And through being an entrepreneur, I was like, holy crap, because I didn't understand like what was holding me back.
Yeah.
And it didn't make any sense. And then I figured it out and I was like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, I know. And then you shared it with everybody else. And that's all these pains that we go through. They're there to not just help you, but to be able to impact more lives around us.
Like insane. But I have loved talking to you. I've loved connecting. I mean,
I've loved talking with you too. You're amazing.
Thank you. I mean, just having this platform that I never imagined would be able to facilitate conversations like this that wouldn't have happened otherwise.
I know. It's incredible, isn't it?
It really is. And I think it goes to the testament of starting a business in itself, in that we just have to get out of our own mind. Yeah. Because you cannot even envision or understand the possibilities that exist out there and the people that need you.
People need you.
I mean, yeah.
And the thing with like limiting beliefs, for example, is that, you can't see them and you have blind spots. And so most times it takes someone else to be able to point them out for you. You don't even know that they're there. Right. But once you do,
you've probably heard this statistic. I mean, I've heard anything between we have 60 to 90,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah.
90% or more is just on repeat after the age of 7. Yeah. So you constantly have this loop going, saying the same thing unless you decide and make a conscious decision to change that.
Yes. True.
And we do. I mean, I literally thought, I don't know where I thought that voice came from. My ego. I don't know where the hell. I don't know if I thought I had a direct line.
Yeah.
Or what.
Yeah, exactly.
But
exactly.
it's just all lies. Your brain lies to you to keep you safe. And so
it's true. It doesn't want you to change. You got to challenge it all the time because it just wants to keep you doing the same thing, even if you're miserable.
Yeah. And actually, we're more comfortable when we're miserable and we become addicted to it.
Yep. It's so true.
It is. It's so frustrating. But once you learn, that what it is and how you can change it and that you can change it, it's so empowering and you're limitless.
You are. You literally, that's why I always say, I'm like, you move from that discouraged entrepreneur with big dreams to that limitless CEO. And then it's smooth sailing.
And then what's really cool too, is that you can be around other people in a nanosecond. You can like pick it out. You're just like,
oh yeah, you definitely can. You become so quick at it. Oh, it's unbelievable.
So it really changes like your interactions with other people, and you're like, okay,
It, it really does. You're just so much more aware of it.
you really are. I find that funny, and I just like have to chuckle to myself and go, oh.
I know. And sometimes I'll have to call people out on it. Like my closest friends will be like, that's a limiting belief and we need to change that. I'm like, I know you love me. Between that and the psychology degree.
Oh gosh, yeah, I know. I'm
I
sure
know.
people are like,
okay, like simmer down, Kathi. You're taking it too far here.
Oh. That's so funny.
I know.
We just think differently. And, if you want to be part of the different thoughts and living a different life, you can connect with Kathi if she's your person, if you've loved this conversation. So where can they connect with you, Kathi? Let us know.
So definitely go ahead and get that free guide at kathireuter.com/think this, not that. That will definitely get you moving in the right direction. Start with that. But then you can find me on all the platforms at Kathi Reuter.
Love it. And that's my daughter's name.
Oh, really, Catherine?
Yeah.
Oh, see?
Yeah.
She must be awesome, just like me.
She is pretty awesome.
She is. Oh my gosh.
I love that. Okay. Yeah. I will definitely leave all that contact information in the show notes.
Great.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it. This was so much fun.
I know. It fills my bucket so much.
I know. I love this. It's my favorite part of the business.
Yep. It really is. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
I so enjoyed talking with Kathi on the podcast, and I hope you did too. I'm going to leave all of her contact information below, a link to Think This, Not That, a link to her podcast, and where you can connect with her. Thank you so much to Kathi for joining me on the podcast. And coming up on Friday, I'm going to have another short episode for you with some of my tips and tricks and thoughts on being a mompreneur. So be sure to look out for that on Friday. And then next Monday, I have another great interview coming for you. And again, I'm just blown away by the amazing guests that I get to interview. And I feel so grateful for those conversations. And I feel so grateful for you as a listener. So thank you so much. You can contact me if you would like at mombusinesscoach.com, and you'll see all of my information, my social links, ways to connect and work with me there. So be sure to check that out, and then follow the podcast, leave it a review, share a link, do all the things. I appreciate anyone who can help others get the message that hopefully you are enjoying. So I hope you have an amazing week, and thank you so much again for listening. I can't wait to talk to you again later this week.